At 7:14 a.m., I read the email that would change everything. I'd just returned from walking our dog, Diesel, the early sunlight barely creeping over the horizon. The house was quiet, and the smell of fresh coffee had just begun to drift through the air. This house, the one we'd chosen together a decade ago, felt heavier than usual. That's when I saw it. The subject line read, I need to be honest with you. Ethan. This weekend has opened my eyes. The people here understand energy, value, purpose, things I never truly felt with you. I've met someone. His name is Kale. He's a spiritual guide, a life coach, and he sees me in a way you never could. I won't be coming back. Also, I've taken the $420,000 from your inheritance and moved it into my personal account. We're married, so it's legally fair. I need it more than you do. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. My lawyer will reach out. Malene. I stared at the screen. I didn't break anything. I didn't scream. I didn't even curse. Instead, I leaned back in my chair, took a breath, and gave a soft laugh. She thought she'd won something. But she had no idea. This wasn't a game she could win. She had no idea I'd already made my move. I replied with just one line. Thanks for letting me know. That was all it took. Enough to throw her off balance, to get her wondering. She didn't realize the inheritance she'd stolen wasn't actually hers, or even real. My grandfather, who had gone through 2 brutal divorces, made sure the trust he left me was shielded with legal armor. Long before Malene ever stepped foot in a yoga studio, I'd worked with my lawyer to set up a decoy account. The name, the bank, the details, it all looked legitimate. But the funds? Not a cent was accessible. The real inheritance was protected under a shell corporation, completely untouchable. I'd seeded the dummy account with just enough money to tempt her. It worked. She took the bait. That night, I called my lawyer again. My words were calm. Time to trigger the clause. He understood immediately. Done, he said. She has no idea what she's just walked into. The next day, I stuck to my usual routine. Malene probably expected me to fall apart, to bombard her with calls or threats. Instead, I spent my morning filing 2 things, a legal separation with asset freeze and a court injunction regarding the attempted theft of marital property. Why was I so prepared? Because weeks before, I'd noticed the shift. Late-night retreats. Whispered calls. Cryptic texts. I didn't confront her. I gathered evidence. Device tracking. Logged emails. IP addresses. Security footage of her smiling at the computer as she initiated the transfer. All of it legal. All of it admissible. Later that day, Kale posted a hazy photo of him and Malene meditating by a cliff. Something about energy and abundance. I couldn't help but smile. Because right then, her phone started blowing up. She tried to ignore it, but the calls kept coming. Finally, she picked up, and I imagine her lawyer's voice on the other end was sharp. Because she screamed. Loud enough that others at the retreat came running. Her phone slipped from her hands. Her face went pale. Her lawyer's message was clear. Account frozen. Investigation underway. The trust is not in your name. We need to talk. Now. At the Sedona retreat, the peaceful desert vibe vanished. The once calming air felt oppressive as she stared at the screen in disbelief. Kale noticed immediately. What's going on, baby? He asked. She didn't answer. She tried to log into the account again. Account not found. She tried another way. No such account. Again. Error. It's gone, she whispered. What do you mean gone? Kale snapped. What the hell are you talking about? Panic set in. She began to stammer, trying to explain. I moved the money. I saw it there. Kale's expression hardened. The affection vanished from his voice. Where is it now? He demanded. That was the moment she realized what this really was. Kale had never loved her. He wanted the money. Now that it was gone, so was his patience. I left everything for this, he hissed. You promised me. And now, with nothing left to give, she stood frozen in the middle of the retreat that had promised her clarity. He didn't say a word, just snatched his phone and stormed out of the meditation lodge, leaving her behind in silence. Back at home, I sat alone in my quiet living room, sipping a slow pour of scotch. I wasn't smiling, not because I lacked satisfaction, but because this wasn't about hate. It was about justice. She tried to destroy me while I was deployed, loyal, distant, and unaware. She expected me to fall apart. Instead, she was the one unraveling. And this was only the beginning. 3 days later, Malene came back to what used to be our house. She couldn't get in. The locks had been changed, the gate wouldn't open, and her key fob blinked red with rejection. She pounded on the front door, screaming my name in frustration. But I wasn't there. Instead, a well-dressed man appeared, descending the steps with a document in his hand. Malene Curtis. She hesitated, then nodded. "You've been served," he said smoothly. "This property is now under the legal control of its trustee. You have no legal claim here." Shocked, she snatched the papers from his hand. "This is my house." He pointed to a line in the contract. "Your signature. The prenup." Back then, she hadn't bothered reading it. She was too infatuated with the image of marrying a dependable soldier. She laughed off legal paperwork, calling it outdated in a modern marriage. But that same quiet, passive husband had played the long game. That same day, her credit cards began to fail. Her so-called new partner, Kale, vanished. After cleaning out a donation box at their yoga retreat and emptying the emergency fund, he ghosted her completely. No calls. No messages. Not even a goodbye. She was left with nothing, no home, no money, and no partner. Meanwhile, I sat across from my lawyer as he handed me a thick folder. "Everything is in place. She's officially removed from your accounts. The final court date is set." I gave a slow nod. "Excellent. One last move to make." He raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" I drew a long breath. She said I'd have to rebuild from zero. But now she's the one who will. And I'm going to make sure she learns exactly what that feels like. 2 weeks later, the final play was ready. Malene was living in a cramped studio apartment with a friend, 2 cats, a busted heater, and dwindling hope. She was reaching out to former colleagues, desperate for job referrals. But whispers were spreading through the HR circles. Stories of her attempt to manipulate trust funds were making quiet but deliberate rounds. It was all falling into place. She still had one asset left, her name, her reputation. So I booked a speaking spot at the Wellness Expo where she once stood as a respected guest. I was introduced as a veteran-turned-entrepreneur, there to speak about rebuilding, honor, and inner strength. The audience applauded, not knowing what was coming. I began with, "Let me tell you a story. It's about betrayal. It's about trust. And the line between silence and weakness." I shared how my wife left me, via email, while I was deployed. How she tried to take everything I had. How she moved another man into our home, thinking I'd be too broken to fight back. But instead of breaking, I rebuilt, stronger, sharper. Gasps echoed across the crowd. Phones recorded every word. Then I said her name, Malene Curtis. Some people recognized it. Others stared in stunned silence. Either way, the ripple was real. And irreversible. Later that night, she messaged me. "Why would you do this? Why shame me like that? My reply was short. You ended our marriage in an email. You took what wasn't yours. You mistook silence for surrender. Now you've seen what quiet revenge looks like. And it's final. Now, my life is peaceful. I've started a non-profit supporting veterans struggling with betrayal and trauma post-deployment. People assume strength comes from battle. But real power lies in calm precision, knowing when to push, and when to let karma do the rest. As for Malene, she faded from the spotlight. Her name became a cautionary tale in certain circles. I sometimes wonder if she ever confesses what really happened. But I doubt she ever says my name. Because even now, it probably still makes her flinch. Was it justified? That's for you to decide. Share this story with someone who needs to remember. Betrayal has a cost, and silence isn't always surrender. Sometimes, it's just the sound before the reckoning.